In this video, the third video in our sermon prep series, I want to show you how I use my sermon prep guide to gather all the commentaries, the church fathers, even some Bible word study, just all the stuff, a quick place that I can go that's easy to access. I can work down a list of all the information I need as I prepare a sermon. And so when we're in Logos, I've already got one set up called My Sermon Prep Guide, which is right here. I put a verse in it. Let me make it a little bit larger so you can see it. I put my verse in it, and then all of these categories come up. I received these categories from Morris Proctor when I took his Camp Logos training on mpseminars.com. I would encourage anybody to spend $20, set aside a couple days or several evenings, go through, I think it's 16 hours worth of training, Camp Logos, and he'll show you how to set this up. And he'll show you some things that I've forgotten as I went through, but it is incredible material. He's just a great resource to have to the Logos community. But this is how my sermon prep works. So I've set up my clippings document. I'm working through notes. I've set up my clippings document. I open up my sermon prep guide. I put whatever text I'm working at in the search series, and then all of these options come up, and it has everything from like church fathers to kind of the people in the passage, the places in the passage, the things in the passage. I'm not going to go through all these, but I'm going to show you how to set up your own custom guide that will help when you do your sermon prep, and you can have anything that you want in there. So to open up your sermon prep guide, go to Guides, and then down here at the bottom, you're going to see this icon that says New. Click New, and then Make New Guide. Make New Guide. Well, there on the Make New Guide, let me make it a little bit larger. You're going to have a lot of different options. Here we go. And up here, you want to make sure that it says Bible reference. Bible reference, if you're a expository preacher, which I am, Bible reference. And then you can begin to add all these different sections for what you want. So let's say we're just going to call this YouTube Sermon Guide. And what are the things that I want to look at? Well, I'm going to want to see the ancient literature, which will be church fathers, quotations from church fathers, apostolic fathers, Josephus, things like that. I might want the biblical theologies in there. I might want to have let's say I want to have if you have your library and collections, I want to have a theology collection. Let's say I want to have my favorite study Bible collection. Let's say another collection. I'm going to have my N.T. Wright collection. You can add as many of the collections as you have. Going to add my commentaries, and you can do it through tagging and things like that, but I'll just have all the commentaries up there. You can have, just anything that you want within here. You can have important passages, important words, interesting words, sermon outlines, sermons, parallel passages, topics, word by word, your content. You just, out of all these, you add whatever you want to go through, and then you are good. You're good to go. So let's get out of here and let's open up our guide, and then custom guide right there, YouTube sermon guide. You open it up. Let's say we're just going to do John 3:16. It's going to come up. It's going to take a while because it's a new guide. Let me see if I can collapse all these. But all of those things we just put in our sermon guide show up. So when you're in your text, John 3:16, and you open up the ancient literature, look at that. You have the apostolic fathers. If that text has an allusion, or the church fathers, if it's quoted, it's going to be right there. You click on it, that resource is going to come up, and so you're quickly able to see how that verse is used in ancient literature or your biblical theologies. You can go through or your theology, John 3:16, and we can go through some of the resources, and this is how I use clippings. So let me open up this one, where we're talking about the robber, whatever it is, the robber cripple, it doesn't matter, but you highlight what you want. Remember, we set up a clippings document earlier. You highlight it, and you're going to add it to that clippings document. That is how I do research for sermons to put in one place. And so let's say we're going to open up this one. It doesn't matter what it is. We're just going to highlight it. It'll matter when you study it, but we're going to add it to that clipping document. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Add it to... Yes, it is. And so those documents, those resources, those highlights get added to that clipping document. And so I'm able to go through just a lot of information. And the more that you use collections, put those in certain ways, or tag your resources, the better this gets, because you can customize this guide as many times as you need. You can add different categories. You've got your commentaries. You can just start opening up. Just click on them. Different commentaries, they're going to open up, and just makes it so easy. So you can just read, and it's all going to go to the passage that you need it to when you open up that document. So all of those commentaries just opened up to their spot in John 3:16. Isn't that incredible? So what I do is I work through let me get rid of this, and I'll open up my sermon prep guide. I work through my sermon prep guide doing that, whatever the text is. I just work through these different categories. I spend more time in some than others, especially how well I know that text, or sometimes I don't need to use the biblical people. I know all the people within that text, but sometimes there's some people in the Old Testament I don't know as well. I'm going to spend more time doing fact books on people within that passage. And sometimes it takes a minute for Logos to populate the data because it's not run that resource in a while, or especially if it's if it's not run that passage before. But, you have here in John 4:46 through 54, I can study about a ruler in Cana. Or the concordance tool is so cool because the concordance tool will let you actually change the measurements for you. So if it gives a measurement in a biblical measure, like a certain coin or a certain amount of money, it will actually convert that to you to today's money. So it'll say how many dollars it is. Just absolutely incredible tool. Cross references. You can do your commentaries. If you put your commentaries into collections, you can say these are the kind of commentaries that I want to use and see. So you're going to have to play around with this, or go to mpseminars.com, do his training, but set up your own sermon prep guide. Put the categories that you want in there, and that will change over time. So down here at the bottom, I have a lot of my collections, and your collections count as either the collections or things that you've tagged. And so here we've got our theology library, but when I go down, I have all my tags that you can actually use as collections. You can do individual books. You can do authors. The sky is the limit as to what you can do. And so use your sermon prep guide to work through a text, change it over time, hone it. Don't get stuck in saying, I've got to do it this way. Let that sermon guide expand. Open up just as many resources as you can. I put those into the clippings document. My goal is when I'm studying through a passage, after I've studied the passage, done the Bible word study, is I want to see all the information I have written about that passage. I want to take the critical things for me, put them in a clippings document, and then I want to begin to process that information to come up with some sort of outline or flow of thought or illustrations. And then I open up a sermon document and I just begin to write either an outline if I'm going to do an outline sermon, or if it's something I need to hone in, maybe more of a manuscript. And by the end of the week, I just trust that process. I practice that sermon, but that's how I do it. So I have a sermon prep guide. I get those sections together and I just attack it. I just go after it, opening up most of the sections each week, even if I just skim them, and that's how I get it done. So hopefully this has been helpful. This is a 30,000 foot view of something that takes a lot of practice and a lot of getting used to. But once you do, I tell you, it opens up your world for sermon study. Well, I hope this has been helpful. If you've got other thoughts or maybe ways that you do it, feel free to share it in the videos, in the description, the comments below, and I'll take a look at those and we'll learn together. Until next time, God bless.